Welcome once again to your weekly update from the city of New Hope, recording on the 21st of October. Time to talk again to the mayor, who we find in an interesting background today. Welcome, Mayor. How are you today, and where are you today?
Hi, Dave. That's not the city of New Hope behind me. We didn't grow mountains overnight. Actually, that's in Switzerland, and I took that picture a few years ago.
Very nice picture to add to our discussion today. Let's begin talking about things happening in the city of New Hope. And first is a big day that's coming up this week. Tell us about City Day and again, the work that goes into it and why people should attend.
Oh, there's so much happening. It's on the 24th of October. And from 5 to 7, you can come into City Hall and go look at all the tables of all the departments that are there. So they'll pass out some information. A lot of times, if you have a concern, you don't know where to go when you get into City Hall. Well, this will give you some information on what table or what area you should be going at. So the other thing that's happening inside City Hall from 5 to 7 is Colors of Our World. So the Human Rights Commission gave color crayons to kindergartners in New Hope and asked them to color a picture of themselves that matches their skin color. And that's all that's in this box of crayons is skin color. So then they picked up these pictures and they're posted all over City Hall. So mom and dad and the kids will be in looking at the pictures and seeing what's going on at City Days. And then from 7 to 8 outside, they'll have trunk or treat, it's called. So the kids will be able to go to all the police cars and pick up candy. They'll be able to see the fire engines and the big SWAT machines and all that other stuff that's there. So just a good place for the kids to begin their trick or treating. And all that happens on the 24th of October at City Hall.
All right, make sure you stop by. And when you stop by for that day, you might notice a few things about the election at City Hall. It's been a busy place, hasn't it, Mayor?
It has. So starting now, well, actually starting on the 18th, you actually have direct voting. That means you can put your ballot right into the machine as opposed to putting it in the envelopes. So City Hall, you'll be able to vote until 3 o'clock on most days. It'll be open on Saturday the 26th from 9 to 3. And then on a Tuesday the 29th, it'll be open till 7 at night to vote. So we're trying to help people as much as we can to help them vote. You can vote at City Hall up to the day before the election. But on election day, if you haven't voted, you need to go to your polling place to do that. The polling places are generally open 7 in the morning till 8 at night. So make sure you get there to vote somehow. I understand they've already done about 1,000 absentee, they call them, or early voting. So it's been busy. We expect this next week to be really busy too.
And if you want more information about the election process, again, newhopemn.gov, you can find out more there. Let's hop into community development, talk about a few things happening here. And the first is some fun at recent council meetings and now some pictures to show all that fun. This is the Rave Awards. Wrap that up for us this year.
Oh, they were. I did ask them if they would get smaller rocks because those rocks are really heavy. So we got to see the pictures of all the award-winning folks and gave them the rock and congratulated them. But you can go online and into the city website and look at resident recognition, and you'll be able to see the pictures not only of the people that got the rocks, but the pictures of what they've done to their yards. Just amazing how pretty they are.
Congratulations to the winners. All right, let's go to some updates on some homes around the city. The first is that house that's in the park. And this is 3840 Oregon, and we're waiting for the weather to cooperate, I understand.
Well, they wanted to do a live burn, and that's really helpful to the fire department to be able to do that. When it's this dry and or windy, they just can't do that. So they're watching the weather very carefully. We're hoping for a nice rainfall that'll just cool everything down and make it a little safer. At one point, they're just going to give it up and they'll tear it down. But right now, they're just leaving it there. It's all boarded up, and hopefully they've done some inside training, so that's been helpful. But now it's boarded up, and they're just waiting for a cooler day that isn't windy and maybe rain the night before.
All right, let's hope that comes. To scattered site housing, first house is 4220 Nevada, and I understand demolition is scheduled and going to be coming soon.
That's the one right off of 42nd Avenue. It's a double lot, and so the garage is detached from the house. They're going to start that, I think, next week sometime. They'll start tearing that down because of where it's located, so close to the gas station. that will not be a live burn. They just can't risk that at all. So probably you'll see the demolition of that starting next week sometime.
Okay, next is 5410 Zealand, and this is a closing is scheduled on the lot portion of this process. So tell us how that works.
So we came to an agreement with the owner for the house. And now what we'll do is they'll actually sell us the house, but what they're selling us basically is the lot, because that's going to be a tear down. So that closing will be the 30th of October.
Up to Virginia we go in the 54th area, and we've got a couple homes next door to each other, or lots next door to each other, but some interesting news about the people that will be building the new homes. Tell us about the thought process of the city as you approach this.
Well, there's a guy on our staff named Jeff Helger. He's very aggressive with this. He looks around, he sends out notices to all kinds of builders. Well, we don't want to always use the same builder because they have different style houses. So the one on 5421 Virginia, that one's going to Donne Homes, and they'll be closing on just the lot, just the land on that one on the 22nd of November. And then there's one at 5437. That one's going to Exceptional Homes, different person, different builder. And that'll also close on the 22nd. And then there's the two on 50th.
Right.
Those two are both built, and the irrigation systems are in, the trees are in, and the sod is in. Now, just a little side note on that. We got to look at one of the houses inside. And as I came outside, there's these huge rolls of sod. I mean, they're taller than I am, and I'm not very tall, but, and I thought, how in the world are you going to do that? And this machine comes and hooks this thing on, and they laid the sod in like an hour and a half on both those houses. It was just amazing to watch it go from dirt to sod in an hour and a half.
Technology makes things a little easier.
Yes, the 7901, that's the one on the corner. That one's going to close sometimes in November. We do have a buyer for that. Pretty much they're just finishing up the inside of that now. On the 7911, that's the one that's internally, that two-story house. That one closed last week, and the buyers are just thrilled with it. We got to tour that house. There's something called champagne bronze, which is the color of the faucets and the spigots and all that kind of stuff. I've never heard of that. It was just beautiful inside. And I understand that the new homeowners are just thrilled with it.
Very nice. Glad to hear. Let's move up 50th just a little bit to 8024. Looks like we've got some demolition being completed there as well. And again, another lot sale.
That's just a lot sale. That one's going to Great Buy Homes, and that'll happen in 22nd November, like the rest of them. Because they're closing so late in the year, I would be surprised if demolition happens this year. But, you know, we've had snowstorms on Halloween, so you never know. They'll kind of play that by ear whether or not they actually do some demolition on that.
Last note from community development is the business networking group, another event scheduled here coming up the next month with a fun venue. Where are they going to be and when?
Well, that's on the 6th of November. It'll be 2:00 in the afternoon. It's open to the public, and it's going to be at Can Do Canines. That's on Industrial Boulevard and about 52nd or something like that. So we'll be inside the building where the dogs are, and we'll have our business networking meeting. But we're probably going to get a little tour of that. They'll give us a little explanation on how the dogs are trained and where they're trained and who gets them afterwards. And there might even be some dogs there to see.
Quite a great organization. Hope people can stop by. Let's go to the police department. A couple items to update you on here. First was a task force meeting with a couple folks from New Hope attending. What was this task force?
Well, my chief and one of my captains attended the Violent Offenders Task Force. So violent offenders are treated differently than just a normal police stop for a motor violation. So they attend this, and then they bring that information back, and they hold training for our police officers that's done in-house. So the other thing that happened was we have a SWAT team, and this SWAT team is made up of officers from the West Metro, the cities, and so they all went to training this week too. It's important that our SWAT team knows how to work with each other, and they do, but they get regular training as a team together. they're only on this SWAT team for a couple years, and then they switch them out with somebody else.
Let's go to Public Works, talk about a few things that are happening. And first item was at the North Water Tower. There's something there that needs to be run every so often in case of emergency. Enlighten us of what that is.
Well, this is rather interesting. So, we get all of our water from Minneapolis. Well, we thought a few years ago that in case of an emergency, and like we had a water main break one time, and the water wasn't flowing, so we put in an emergency well next to the North Water Tower. Well, we have to make sure that that emergency well and pump is working. So once or twice a year, they check that to make sure they're actually getting water out of it. And then they take a sample of that water. It goes to the Hennepin County Health Department to check that water to make sure that in the emergency, not only do we need it to work and pump water, we also need it to be safe. And so it gets checked twice a year, and this was the time to do the checking on that.
And speaking of water, Public Works also involved in a water main break repair. I guess this happens about any time during the year, right?
It does. When it breaks, when it's 65, 70 degrees out, they don't really mind. But when it's 20 below, they do. And this was on 38th in Maryland. Not that they're hoping for breaks, by the way, but they would much rather do them when it's nice out instead of 30 below.
Understand. Let's go to Park and Rec. A lot happening here. The first is something looking ahead to the winter season, and that's basketball. We've got some leagues going, forming, and also some coaches needed. Tell us more.
Well, this is the time for youth basketball leagues to be forming. So you have to register for that, of course. Well, I understand that Hennepin County gave us a sports grant, and so that's going to greatly reduce the cost to the players. So you should look in your book, your little, you're going to hold it up for us.
Right there.
There, youth basketball. And you can figure that cost of playing is going to be reduced. So when you register, they'll tell you what that is. We're also looking for coaches for this youth basketball, and we will also train these coaches. So they just need some adults, some parents to help with this.
All right, we'll mention this book a couple more times. One thing for some of the older residents is Community Connections. There was a recent Community Connections meeting with a great topic, and another one coming up soon. Tell us about both.
Well, they used to call this Don't It Make You Wonder. It's the third Wednesday of the month, and it's 11 to 12:30. I'm sorry, 10 to 11:30, and it's always at Crystal Community Center. Well, last time the funeral parlor.
Right, Washburn-McCreevy.
Thank you. Washburn-McCreevy came in and talked about planning ahead. In other words, planning for your demise so that your children don't have to do that. Very interesting. Well, the next one that's happening on the 20th of November is Our Story. And here's my shout out to Crystal. It'll be Our Story Crystal. And I understand, Dave, you're going to be there to help fill in some of the gaps. I think they're going to show the film.
Right.
And then so that should be a really interesting one. And again, it starts at 10 o'clock till 11:30, and it's Crystal Community Center.
Beautiful. It's Our Town Story Crystal, a little history of the city of Crystal. And you'll hear a lot of mentions of New Hope because the two were together back in the Crystal Lake Township days. And you might learn a little bit about that jagged border as well. So if you can come, it should be a great showing. Let's talk about something that's a long ways away, but now is the time to get ready for if you are a performer or might want to be a performer at some of these events at the entertainment park, and also maybe a sponsor. Tell us more about this early look into those events.
Well, they plan all this way ahead of time, and they have to because the brochure comes out early. So we do movies in the park, and we also do music in the park, and we need sponsors for these things. So if you're interested in sponsoring these, this is the time to do that, to call Park and Rec, tell them you want to be a sponsor. If you don't want to sponsor the whole thing, you can be a co-sponsor. So there's a couple sponsors on these events. But most of those they're all free to the public. And to get that, to be able to do that, we need to have sponsors. So this is the time to call. And if you do sponsor, then your name will be in the brochure that says you're a sponsor of this.
Something else that recently happened in Park and Rec was a mix between women's softball and Halloween. Explain that to us, Mayor. What was this grand event?
This is really interesting. West Metro has a women's softball league, and it's really been expanding. And they do something called the Spooktober, or something like that. They had a tournament last week. I don't know if they played in costumes. I don't really know all the details of it, but it just sounded so interesting to me. And they played at Northwood Park.
Yeah, big league. Some great players here in the local area. A couple final notes in Park and Rec. Let's talk about a few facilities in the area. The first is the golf course. Still busy here and some beautiful fall golf to be had, but also a neat group that went in and used the clubhouse for a meeting. Tell us about that group.
Well, that clubhouse is just beautiful. We really don't rent it out much during the day because the golfers are still there. So Roslyn Court, which is a condominium building in the southern part of the city, used that for their board meeting last week from
Mhm.
6 to 8. I thought that was interesting. But now that leagues are done, there's a lot of open golf going on during the day. I wouldn't go much after 6 o'clock because it starts to get
Right.
dark and then you can't find your ball. But there's a
Hmm.
lot of that going on. The course is still just beautiful. They're still mowing every single day and they're blowing the leaves off. So the golfing is wonderful. And I should tell people in this weather, the golf ball really goes further.
Ah, very nice.
And we have pencils on some of our erasers, so you could be scoring better too.
Make us feel good about our game at this
Yeah.
time. Over to the ice arena. What is happening there at the ice arena?
Well, the season really hasn't started. They're calling this the shoulder season. So this is the time when there's lots of practices going on, lots of these other groups that are renting it. Um, you can have open skating on Friday from 6:30 to 8 and on Sundays from 4 to 6. You can rent skates. You can have your skates sharpened, bring your own skates. It's just a nice time to skate. Once the season actually starts, there won't be as much time to skate, open to skate. So
Mhm.
this is a good time to get that in.
Final note is the aquatic park and everything wrapped up for the season, but a little construction going off to the side. Update us on that construction.
Well, we had to build a shed because, of course, we have more stuff than we can store inside, and we decided to do the work ourselves. And when you're doing that yourself, it takes a little longer than if you pay somebody, but it's a lot cheaper. So to save some money, we're putting a siding on the shed ourselves. So that's been under under construction for a while, and it might be for a little while yet too.
All right, a few final notes to finish up on here. The first is the In Focus photo contest. So if you've got the bug to take pictures like the mayor did now of the Alps behind her, you can take some pictures right here in New Hope. Tell us about that contest.
Apparently, pictures are starting to come in.
Good.
You have until the 31st of October, and there's 4 categories. They are, and I'm going to read them so I don't get them wrong: people, places, wildlife and nature, and a new one called events and activities.
Mhm.
All the pictures must be taken in New Hope of things that are happening in New Hope. You can submit one photo for each event or for each category. They also have a category for the under 18, and you'll vote on that. Coming in the 1st of November, you should be able to go online and see the pictures, and then you'll be able to vote for the People's Choice Award on those pictures after November 1st. But get those pictures in by the 31st. You can go online, it'll tell you exactly how to get those pictures in. I don't think you just come in with a printed photo. I think it's all done electronically, but they'll tell you how to do that
Yeah,
online.
get involved. All right, final couple notes, a few events coming up that you might want to get involved in. The first is this coming Saturday, the 26th. Cooper is the place to be to do some pre-Christmas shopping. What's going on, Mayor?
Well, the Women of Today sponsor the Cooper Craft Fair, and they have for years. So that'll be at Cooper High School. The whole high school just gets taken over by booths. There's hundreds of them. Anything you always didn't want or you do want can be got there. They also serve lunch. They serve soup and sandwiches. So you can come and spend most of the day there. It takes about the whole day to see all the stuff that's there. So this is free to attend. And of course, things are for sale, and that's on Saturday, the 26th. So before you do that, if you want to, Ann
Mhm.
Rest is having a listening session at Frankie's from 11 to 12. You can go there, and Ann basically listens to what you have to say or concerns that you might have. And she's very attentive, but she's very prompt. You get from 11 to 12 to do this. And that's pretty well attended, too.
Very good. And that's coming up this Saturday as well. Well, a lot going on in the city of New Hope, as you see. And here's a calendar of event in just a minute that has some other things happening in the city. And again, the website, newhopemn.gov. Great place to find out about things going on and maybe come up in the city of New Hope. Mayor, thanks again for your time. Great to talk with you, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Dave. We might have a different picture next week.
All right. We're excited to see. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
For more city stories, check out ccxmedia.org or find us on social media.